Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Judapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Om Shri Chaitanya Prasadena Tadrupasya Vinirnayam Balapi Gurute Shastram Dristva Vrajvilasinahi Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Welcome, dear devotees. We are uh, giving a class that's been a long time coming, certainly. Uh, I think today's topic, it's hard to speak about because in so many ways this topic is so basic to devotional life and at the same time is so confidential. And that is because in a couple of days, this upcoming Kartik Purnima, this last Purnima and this Purnima mark at least according to the North Indian calendar, this Kartik Mas is one of the most auspicious months in the Hindu calendar. And beginning with Shravana Purnima or Rasa Purnima, the day of the Rasa dance, and Kartika Purnima, which is celebrated in many different ways, but one of them is as the appearance day of Tulasi Devi, and in other traditions, the day that Tulasi Devi was married to Lord Vishnu. And I think that there are a lot of different angles where I could approach this. I'm going to try and take the most general approach that I can. But she is a very exalted personality and one of the most vital in the life of a Vaishnav. And so I just beg her mercy. She's over there on my shrine. Please be merciful, Mother, that I may speak something that is pleasing and that serves the needs of the assembled Vaishnavas here. So I wanted to begin with this verse from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Rasa bilasho vasitascha vrinda Vane tvadishangri saroja seva Labhya chapusam kripaya tavaiva Vrinde namaste charanara vindam. This is oh, thank you. This is that tune is from a beautiful devotional album that Livy and I like a lot. I can post it to the group. Yes, it's one of my favorite songs too. And we listen to it in the car sometimes. It's one of the few Hindu songs that's made it onto my partner's playlist. Very good. Um, O Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. The living entities who attain the service of the lotus feet of your Lord reside in Vrindavan, and the desire to understand the Lord's amazing pastime of the rasa dance is only by your mercy. Tulsi or Vrinda is the deity that gives name to the place of Krishna, Vrindavan. And she is the Lord of, she is one of the manifestations of the Yogamaya Shakti, the expansions of Srimati Radhika. In Vrindavan, in Krishna's celestial Vrindavan, there are two, in general, we can speak about two goddesses that predominate other than Srimati Radhika. One of them is Parnamasi Devi or Yogamaya Devi, who expands herself into Durga and Ma Kali. She is the she is a she's a I could say like a medicine woman, kind of shaman lady who is a local guru, and she is the guru of Nanda and Yashoda. She's also the grandmother of Srimati Radhika, and she arranges her role. The role of Yogamaya Shakti is to arrange for the pastimes of Radha and Krishna to get the mood right, to get the drama right for whatever hijinks are going on in Vrindavan in the spiritual world, because we believe in a spiritual world that is not unvariegated oneness. We want to taste sugar. We don't want to be sugar. This bhakti kind of we could call it a dualistic point of view, although it's not exactly that. I would contest that. So if Purnamasi Devi, Yogamaya Devi, is deals in the realm of the people in celestial Vrindavan, Tulasi Devi, Vrinda Devi, is the guardian of the animals and the plants and the rivers and the tributaries of the Yamuna, the all the natural phenomena, the champaka flowers, the jasmine, the parrots, the monkeys, the peacocks, the cows. Vrindavan is an expanding, unfolding ecosystem. It's a very, I think, in this age where we're struggling with our relationship to the earth, it's a very unique vision of the divine realm, unique amongst the religions of the world, I would argue, in that it is so absorbed and intertwined with the natural world. It's not like a far off um, kind of place with clouds and everything's clean and pristine. It's a as one of my guru's friends put it, one of his colleagues, sadhu colleagues, that it's a real forest with dirt and worms, like, right? And so Vrinda Devi is the goddess that presides over all of this, and she is worshipped as a plant, as for this. I think this is, most of us know Tulsi Ma as this plant that is in Hindu homes and Hindu temples, this tree that is, if you've been to a Hare Krishna temple, after the first worship of the deities is done, the Mangala Arti, where the deities are greeted first thing in the morning, the altar is opened, and usually the curtains close, and then when the curtains close, the this bush is brought out, often in a pot with a little skirt around it, and there is puja offered to the bush. There's argya, there's water that's poured on the bush, and you circumambulate Tulsi Devi, the walking around Tulsi Devi or dancing around Tulsi Devi. And we usually think of Tulsi Devi as kind of like a little house plant. My Tulsi Devi is like a house plant. She's a struggling house plant because I'm not good at taking care of plants. But as we will find out, she is very merciful, and especially because it's not easy to take care of these plants in Michigan in the winter. But speaking of Michigan in the winter, these are the Tulsi plants that I am most familiar with. They are two Tulsi plants that have been at my home Sangha, the Harmony Collective, for 10 years. They grew them from little sprouts, and they are two sisters that have served our deities and our community for so, so long. And they have been tended to. You see, they can get huge. Like we think of Tulsi Devi, this little plant that we see at the temple, or the holy basil at the local plant mart. Your Farmer John's is the one we have over here, but they can grow into these trees, kind of these like they're. She's such a gorgeous plant in her, she can get really, really big. But these have been tended largely by a friend of mine who is a very deep and very creative and knowledgeable and very humble devotee named Nandini Tulsidas, who I can put the link to his work in the Discord chat, and because he is really, really amazing. His writing that he's done, his reflections. He has a Substack. He has been instrumental in building projects and other things, but his specialty is taking care of Tulsi, and he has this amazing website, Tulsi Seva or tulasiseva.com, where you can get all of the best tips for growing your Tulsi, for looking at different, making sure that guarding against infections. It's getting that time of year. It's past that time of year, really, which means I need to get a grow light soon. They have those on there. They have links and, everything. If you are interested in taking care of a Tulsi plant, then, that it would be, and I've taken much of this presentation from his website. So my pranams to Nandini Tulsidas Prabhu. I do not have much of a relationship with Tulsi. I just started taking care of this Tulsi, beautiful plant I got from the store, about 6 months ago. And, because of the weather, she's seen better days. I try to keep her inside most of the time, but it's hard to get her sun because the Tulsi plant really needs sun. Like light is what she needs. And so, but she's hanging on, and she is still giving leaves, giving her love, giving her care. And I'm so grateful for her presence. But I don't really have experience and qualification to speak about this topic, really. So I'll be relying heavily on Nandini Prabhu, who is an incredible bhakta who takes care of Tulsi so beautifully and inspires so many of our community to take care of Tulsi as well. So just a little botanical facts, historical facts about this plant. It is a native plant. It grows wild in Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. I think it might also grow in like the Balkan regions as well. The scientific name Ocimum tenuiflorum or Ocimum sanctum. Ocimum, I guess, is basil because it means holy basil, and the family it's in is called Lamiaceae. I don't know exactly how to say it. You botany people can correct me in the comments, but it's related, of course, related to basil, but it is also in the same family as mint, oregano, and lavender. And while I think in Orthodox Hindu traditions, people are really strict about Tulsi. Like you have to have Tulsi. Like the worship of Vishnu is incomplete without Tulsi. It has to be an actual Tulsi plant. But in situations where you don't have access to a plant, don't live near a temple, you don't have one at home, then an option either than just using just flowers or rice or like substitutes or like manasa, um, for offering using one of these is an option for some bhav seva, for some mental offering of a tulsi leaf substituted with one of her sisters, the basil, the mint, the oregano, the lavender, and especially these. If you look at these flowers, these gorgeous flowers that grow on the top of the tulsi plant. These are called manjaris in the Gaudiya tradition, and they are especially prized. They are especially sacred to be offered to Vishnu. And in the Gaudiya tradition, and they're called manjaris all over, but in the Gaudiya tradition in particular, those of you who are familiar will know the theological significance of this manjari word, and so there's a lot of symbolism there. We can't talk about that now. That is another class. But basil, when you get a basil plant, even you see them basil plants at the grocery store, they have these beautiful flowers that grow, and Vishnu really likes those. I have found remind him of his beloved. The mentions of Tulsi go back all the way to all the way to the Reganatharva Veda, where she's mentioned as like a sacred and healing herb, and the association of Tulsi and Vishnu grows when the Bhakti traditions grow, and by the time you get to texts like the Bhagavata Purana, the Brahmavaivarta Purana, the 18 Puranas that we know, Skanda Purana, they like these texts that lay out much of what we think of as modern Hindu bhakti, the importance of the different associations of these different sacred plants, like the bilva or the gunja berries, of jasmine, of pan leaves, and tulsi is one of these plants. And tulsi is considered, almost kind of in a different category. Bilva and tulsi are said to be the most sacred leaves in all of the Hindu tradition. So the popularity grows. Tulsi, I mentioned that she also grows a little bit in the Balkans, I believe, and that is because she is also used in Eastern Orthodoxy on the feast of the exaltation of the cross. They have a legend that Tulsi, this holy basil plant, sprung up at the feet of the cross of Christ. In some versions, by via the spilling of the blood and the water from Christ's side. In other versions, she came from Mother Mary's tears, but the basil is used to garland and decorate the cross during this time. I also believe that the plant is used for making holy water and purifying instruments that are to be used in the worship service. There are many different perspectives on Tulsi, and I'm going to and there are many different kind of pictures of what Vrindavan is like. It's interesting because this story I've never especially connected with this story. I think it's a fabulous story. Now, I really am excited to share it with you and see what you think, because it's not one that people know a lot. Hindus do know it, especially like Vaishnavas do, but the it can read, if conceived improperly, to be like a little weird, maybe a little problematic, and particularly in regards to its portrayal of Radha, I think. And the it gets into some kind of interesting distinctions between how certain Radha-oriented traditions portray her and other Radha-oriented traditions portray her. We, of course, are focused on the broader Gaudiya tradition and the tradition of Sri Ramakrishna, which is the Vaishnava tradition of Sri Ramakrishna, which largely was the Gaudiya tradition. And so I think I'll be borrowing primarily from their sources, one of them being this Garga Samhita that we're going to be quoting from, and kind of will be coloring the story with that lens. So please bear that in mind. There are a lot of different versions of the story from many different scriptures. The Skanda Purana, the Brahmavaivarta Purana, largely the Devi Bhagavata Purana. But we'll start, with but our entry point is going to be this Garga Samhita text, which is a Gaudiya text. It is a text of the Chaitanya tradition, because this is where we get the mood, the bhava that colors and interprets how we think about this story of Tulsi Devi. And I think, I know I'm being a little vague right now setting the context, but I think as we get into it, you'll see why. In the Garga Samhita, there is, the Garga Samhita is kind of like a commentary spoken by Garga Muni about on the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, but it is kind of an esoteric commentary on the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. The 10th canto is the esoteric heart of the Bhagavatam itself, which is itself an esoteric interpretation of the Vedanta Sutra. And Garga Samhita goes even further, and specific because Bhagavatam, Radha is there, but she's not named. She is kind of the collective voice of the gopis. Her voice is definitely there, but and identified in certain passages by Gaudiya commentators, but it's not definitive. This text goes in depth of the appearance of Radharani, the the pastimes of, where did she come from, who her father was, how did she and Krishna fall in love. And shortly after, in that version of the Radha Krishna romance, Radhika falls head over heels with Krishna, and she wants to do anything to please him. And so Narada Muni, who's one of the interlocutors narrating, says, "O king, after hearing her friend's words, Sri Radha, the goddess of the rasa dance, spoke to her best friend Chandranana." Excuse me. Chandranana, the best of the knowers of religion. She's one of the gopis, who's the scripture expert, I believe. The maybe another one. I'm sorry, I get confused between all of them. My bhakti is definitely not that deep that I know them. But she's an incredibly exalted personality. Imagine Radhika coming to someone, please, like, help me. I'm head over heels for Krishna. Please tell me what kind of worship I should perform to please Sri Krishna. Worship that will bring auspiciousness, piety, and the fulfillment of my desire. And this is what Sri Chandranana says. O Radha, service to Tulasi gives the greatest piety, the greatest good fortune, and the greatest benediction. It gives Lord Krishna's association. You should always gaze on Tulasi, touch her, remember her, glorify her, bow down before her, offer prayers to her, plant her, and worship her. Then she will grant your desire. Those who day after day serve Tulasi in these 9 ways attain the result of a pious deeds performed in many thousands of millions of yugas. A person who plants Tulasi liberates his family. As many branches, sub-branches, seeds, flowers, and leaves as are on the Tulsi plant that he has planted, so many ancestors and descendants in his family for thousands of kalpa yugas will go to Lord Krishna's transcendental abode. A person who, with offerings of Tulasi leaves, worships Lord Krishna is not touched by sin, as a lotus leaf is not touched by water. This passage contains one of the most famous verses, a verse that is repeated in many different scriptures, but I like this version of it. Yat palam sarvapatreshu sarvapushpeshu radhike tulasi dalena chaikena sarvada prapyate tutat. O Radha, by offering Lord Krishna a single tulsi leaf, Tulasi Dalena, one attains the results of Sarvapatreshu Sarvapushpeshu, every flower and every leaf that exists. Tulasi Devi is the representative of Mother Nature in the spiritual world. Every flower, every leaf, every herb, every spice, every fruit, every vegetable is the mercy. Every grain is the mercy of Tulsi Ma. And so all of the flowers that is, we have these festivals often. I believe this is from the San Diego ISKCON temple, where people bring like huge garbage bags of flower petals to pile on the deities, and people throwing flowers from the deities at each other and like sprinkling the prasad on each other. And it's really, like this, people, flowers are such a huge thing. 108 lotuses we offer like I was a part of a puja a couple weeks ago, for Navaratri, Kali Puja, one of those where we all got lotuses, and we had offered 108 lotuses to the deity. All of that is surpassed by a single tulsi leaf on the Shalagram Shila, on the Govardhan Shila, at the feet of Krishna's image. This is from a summary of and this is because of the role in many ways that Tulasi plays in arranging relationships between Radha and Krishna. This is from ISKCON Vancouver. Vrindavan is completely under the control of Vrinda Devi. Without her mercy, it is not possible to even approach the confidential pastimes of Radha Krishna, even as an audience. Even being allowed into Vrindavan Dham indicates that one has received some mercy from Vrinda Devi. In Krishna Lila, she appeared as a young gopi friend of Srimati Radharani. Under the instructions of Purnamasya, Yogamaya, she would arrange secret meetings between Radha and Krishna. She would also make all the material arrangements like saffron, fruits, flowers, and music for Radha Krishna. She carried on her eternal service in Goloka Vrindavan, in the earthly Vrindavan. Once Srimati Radharani was so pleased by the service of Vrinda Devi that with the help of the other gopis, she arranged a magnificent throne and had Krishna and Vrinda Devi sit on it. Lalita Saki, acting as the priest, recited the mantras and performed the marriage ceremony of Krishna and Vrinda Devi. Thus, by the mercy of Srimati Radharani, Vrinda Devi got Krishna. In another pastime, Vrinda Devi offered all the forests of Vrindavan to Srimati Radharani. Thus, Radharani is also known as Vrindavaneshwari, or the Queen of Vrindavan. Tulasi and Radharani are inseparable from each other. This has to be realized before we enter into this story. In the most ultimate sense, this marriage of Tulsi and Krishna is under the auspices, protection, and infinite cherishing of Srimati Radharani. The love between Krishna and Vrinda is a direct manifestation of the love of Radha and Krishna. And this kind of secret image of the wedding of Vrinda and we often say that Krishna and Radha's partnership is just an adulterous affair, and on one level that's true. But in certain traditions, and in Braj traditions, certainly, there's stories about a secret wedding that they have with Brahma acting as the priest. But here, there's no Brahma. Here it's Lalita Saki is the priest. This is an intimate affair, and it seems very different than the story we're about to hear, which is very grand. But this is I consider this the ultimate purport of Tulsi and of this ceremony of the marriage of the Tulsi plants to the Shalagram Shila is the relationship that Tulsi and Krishna have on the highest spiritual platform. But to enact, in this kalpa, there is a lila that was enacted when Tulsi descended to the material world. This would have been before Krishna lila happens. And so, on Earth, we begin on Earth. This story comes from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, the Skanda Purana, many of the other Puranas. It's not from the Bhagavata Purana. And there are many different versions of it, but this is kind of Yogamaya's version of it, drawn largely from Gaudiya sources. Once upon a time, there was a king, I believe his name is Vrishadvaja. And Vrishadvaja was a fanatical devotee of Lord Shiva. We have many, many stories of this. Usually we think of Vaishnavas as being fanatical. Daksha was a fanatical worshiper of Vishnu who became hostile to Shiva, and it did not end up very well for him, as you know. But Vrishadvaja banned the worship of Vishnu, the worship of the incarnations of Vishnu, banned the worship of Lakshmi and the worship of the worship of Lakshmi in the month of Kartika, right, Diwali, and banned the worship of Saraswati in the month of February, right? This ultimate extreme of, we think of Hinduism as very, very tolerant and open-minded and and like this is the picture of Hinduism we have from today, but there are these caricatures in the scriptures of these hyper fanatical, like we won't even celebrate Diwali. I will not worship any other deity, right? Kakabushunde is an example of someone who was antagonistic towards Vishnu in Tulsidas, and of course he becomes one of the greatest devotees of Vishnu. But this king Vrishadvaja restricts the worship of any other god, and he becomes so powerful that the deity, the gods don't know what to do. And so Shiva is very powerful. He's not here to please anyone, but he has this love for his devotees. Like even Ravana was a devotee of Shiva. And the other anyone, gods, demons, everyone worships Shiva. So Shiva's, by the strength of his worship of Shiva, Vrishadvaja has this unconditional protection. And all the gods are too afraid to say anything except for Surya. Surya Dev gets angry. He, eventually he cannot take the gods' kind of, cowardice on this matter. So he curses Vrishadwaj that from him and all of his descendants, they will lose Lakshmi. They will lose their status, their wealth, their fortunes. And so, because of this curse, Surya Dev is pursued by Lord Shiva. And so, there's this comedic scene of Surya Dev is in his chariot, and Lord Shiva is on his bull, kind of following him, ready to beat him up. But they both end up in Vaikuntha, and they both bow before Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu promises to kind of sort everything out. That he says, because of the way that the time cycle works in the Puranas, several generations in the 5 minutes that Shiva and Surya have been in Vaikuntha, several generations have passed, and the descendants of Vrishadwaj are already doing tapas in order to please the goddess Lakshmi, and there ends up being and so Lakshmi appears to them and agrees to be born as their child. This is from Amala Bhakta Das's retelling, which is an audiobook that you can listen to. I can send it to the chat. And so Tulasi is born, this incarnate, as Lakshmi agrees to come into the family, into the line of Vrishadwaj. And she's this beautiful girl named Tulsi, but inwardly she has this natural desire to have Vishnu as her beloved. This is like Parvati is born, that she has this innate longing for Lord Shiva. It's very similar. She goes to Badrik Ashram, this teenager. She goes to Badrik Ashram in the Himalayas and does tapasya, meditates for long hours on end. And she practices such tapasya that Lord Brahma comes to her and says, what do you want? Who are you? Who are you, this effulgent being who is radiating this blissful frequency through the Himalayas? And it's and Tulasi, this is the response that she gives, where she gives a little bit of her backstory. I will not hide my desires out of fear or shame, since you are all knowing. My name is Tulasi. Formerly, I was a cowherd girl in Goloka, and there I served Radharani, the beloved of Sri Krishna. I am a partial expansion of Radharani and was her favorite companion. But one day, in the place where the Rasa dance occurred, Krishna became intimate with me, and I fainted with excessive joy. While I was lying there, Radharani suddenly appeared and saw me in that condition. She was not at all pleased. Blinded with fury, she first reproached Krishna and then cursed me. She said, "O vile one, go and take birth as a human being." Then Krishna said to me, "When you take birth in India, in Bharatvarsha, if you practice austerities, Lord Brahma will grant you a blessing. He will arrange for you to marry the four-armed Narayana, who is an expansion of myself." Then Krishna disappeared, and out of fear of Radharani, I left Goloka and was born in this world. So please grant me that boon. I want to have the handsome and peaceful Narayana as my husband. Lord Brahma replied, "O child, I shall now give you the 16-lettered Radha mantra. By this boon, you will be as dear to Radharani as her life, and she will approve of your intimate dealings with Krishna." So this is funny because it seems to indicate a period in I like to say when I think of this story that there's a period where Radharani is just gets into this mood of jealousy. Sometimes she does this. Um, this is the rasa dynamics of the spiritual world, the overwhelming emotions that can sometimes possess these characters by Yogamaya Devi's arrangement. And and so Brahma gives and so these stories, like backing up a little bit, these stories are from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, which is the favored text of the Radha Vallabhi tradition, a different Radha Krishna centric Hindu sect, where Radha and Krishna are portrayed as more of like a married couple, and that Radha is much more kind of volatile, and she has a penchant for cursing people. And like this is like angry Radhika. And in the Gaudiya text, she's very like deeply emotional and very highly sensitive. But in Brahma Vaivarta Purana, there's almost kind of an element of slapstick to Radharani's anger. And a lot of the stories have a lot of humor in them, as well as kind of like there's like a story where like someone like kills herself because she is so afraid of the wrath of Srimati Radharani. This is not the mood we worship Radhika in the Gaudiya tradition. So this story is kind of given an interpretation. But I like to think of it as one in the spiritual one day Radharani gets in this mood and she does a bunch of stuff that she regrets. But ultimately this is meant for a higher purpose. This is a pretext that she is sending Tulsi Devi away in order to grant the mercy of Krishna to humankind. Because who is Tulsi Devi? What is the Shalagrama Shila? Who is the Shalagram Shila but a manifestation of the mercy of Lakshmi Narayana directly on this earth? And so this is one of the stories that are given. for that. So another victim, right, of Radharani's bad day was Subala Saka. Today is Gopastami, and a different pastime of Subala Saka is being celebrated. You can, look this up. I wrote a play based on that pastime, actually. I have the video. I can say, and I can send it to the chat. But this is a story where, meanwhile, while this is happening, while the Vrinda Devi is being visited by Lord Brahma, we get the story of another victim of Radharani's episode, shall we say. There's a demon that is terrorizing the world, threatening to take over the heavens, and all of the gods pray to Lord Vishnu. And there's this terrible demon named Shankachunda is destroying and wreaking havoc. And Lord Vishnu thinks and he says, "Ah, yes, I know him." They say, "Lord, you know him." And he says, "This being, in reality, in disguise, is one of my own cowherd boys." He says, "One day I left Radha's company and went to the rasa dance area with a gopi named Viraja. Radha soon heard from one of her maidservants that I had flirted with Viraja. Blinded with fury, she hastened there with her attendants to see if it was true. Seeing that it was, Radha immediately converted Viraja into a river. I myself disappeared, so Russia rushed home, and so Radha rushed home angrily with her attendants. Later, when I was with Sudama and she saw me, Radha rebuked me very much. However, I remained silent. But Sudama could not tolerate this, so he rebuked Radha in my very presence. This was quite intolerable to her dignity. Her eyes became red with anger, and she immediately ordered thousands of her attendants to drive him away. Sudama then trembled with fear. As Radha's attendants tried to drive him away, he resisted and repeated his reproaches against her. When she heard them, she cursed him, saying, "May you be born in the womb of a Danavi, of a demon woman." Sudama bowed down to me and crying began to leave. But Radha, who is quite merciful, began to melt. Weeping, she tried repeatedly to stop him from leaving. "Wait," she called. "Wait, where are you going? You don't have to go. Please come back." She became distressed, and her attendants and the cowherd boys began to weep. I then explained to them, "In half a moment, Sudama will return, having fulfilled the conditions of the curse." Of course, half a moment here is equal to about one manvantar, which is 4,320,000 years on Earth. I then called Sudama, "O Sudama, when the curse expires, please come back here." I know. So Radharani was also cursed. Sudama was also cursed. And, we don't find this happening very often. In fact, it is one of the most rare things to have someone fall from the spiritual world. Out of curiosity, and we haven't been there in the Bhagavatam yet, but does anyone know another famous example of someone falling from Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, told twice in the Bhagavatam? Remember Jaya and Vijay? Oh, someone said in the chat. Jai, yes, 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 yes. I knew you would know. Yes, for sure. So Jai and Vijay, right? So when who became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, who became Ravana and Kumbhakarna, who became Shishupala and Dantavakra. This is like the only other time that this happens. This is a very rare thing. It doesn't happen. And why does it happen? Because there must be some purpose behind it. And as the story unfolds, the purpose of this will become clear, I hope. So Sudama is this demon named Shankachunda who has been ruling on the earth. And he has been doing austerities to get Tulsi as his wife. He has fallen in love with her. And he too has been given a boon from Brahma. And Brahma says, I assure you, you will get your Lord Narayan, but first you must also be married to this Sudama. And so Shankachunda, and they're both, by the way, they're Jati Smara. They both recall fully their previous lives. And it's revealed that they actually kind of had a thing for each other in the spiritual world. But this is a way that, that both of their desires can be kind of fulfilled. Tulsi's desire for Vishnu, Sudama's longing for this gopi. So Shankachunda comes and praises the beauty of Tulsi Devi. And she says, "Do you really want to marry me?" They said the Shastras say that only a degraded man desires a woman. At first, a woman is sweet to a man, but later proves fatal. Through her mouth rains honey. Her heart is like a jar. Though her mouth rains honey, her heart is like a jar of poison. The account goes on. She's saying, "Why do you want my body? I'm full of blood and pus and stool and all of these things. These are classical um, degradations of the human body found in the Hindu and Buddhist scriptures. It's gross, impure, especially a woman's body menstruates. All of these sexist, misogynist purity rules around that." But Shankachunda smiles and then answered, "O goddess, what you have said is not completely true. It is partly true and partly false. From the Creator have come chaste and unchaste women. One is praiseworthy, the other isn't. Examples of chaste women are Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga, Savitri, and Radha. So you know that in your previous birth in Goloka, when Radha caught you alone with Krishna, she became angry and cursed you to be born here in India. In Goloka, I very much wanted to consort with you, but because I feared Radharani, I did not do so." So he says, even in the spiritual world, I always thought you were neat. You're right. And so Tulasi likes his answer. So she says, "I tested you to determine how strong you are in knowledge. One should one should choose one's husband by examining a man's merits and defects. If one gives his daughter in marriage to a man devoid of all good qualifications, or to an old man, or to a man who is ignorant or poor, illiterate, diseased, ugly, wrathful, harsh, lame, limbless, deaf, dumb, inactive, or impotent, this sin is equivalent to the sin of murdering a Brahmin. But if one gives his daughter in marriage to a young Vaishnava who is learned, well qualified, and peaceful, one acquires the fruits of performing 10 horse sacrifices." This story is also a vehicle for marriage advice. Tulsi Vivaha it's been considered the beginning of the marriage season. It's the end of this Chaturmasya with Shravan and Jesh and Kartika and, all of these 4 months that are considered, the rainy season. So nothing, it's considered inauspicious for travel, for weddings, for all of these things. And so this is the beginning of the wedding season also. And so they are married. But the, but the marriage is not without consciousness of what is ultimately going to happen, because the gods come knocking at Shankachunda's door and he's called to battle them. And Tulasi has been living happily with him for so long. And she says, she's saying to him, "I'm so afraid that you will not come back. I'm so afraid that you will, that I will never see you again, my beloved." You can tell that they get along. Like, right. They exchange this kind of like battle of wits together. It's quite charming. But Chankachuna responds to her, "My love," and so like you can tell their relationship, and so you can tell how devastated she is to have to be separated from him. Says, "My love, who am I and who are you?" And Vermin, talks about this Upanishadic philosophy of separation is inevitable. At death, in life circumstances, as always. This is the law of the material world. And he reminds her, "In Bajik Ashram, you absorbed yourself in austerities to obtain Lord Narayana as your husband. Surely you will get him. I myself practiced austerities to obtain you as my wife. And by Lord Brahma's grace, I have gotten you. Very soon you will get to Govinda and Goloka Vrindavan. And when I leave my demoniac body, I too shall go there. In that realm, we will regularly see one another. By Radha's curse, I was born in this precious land of Bharat, but I will return to Goloka. Therefore, my dear, do not worry about me. You too will quit your human form and assume a spiritual form and go to Lord Hari, so you need not sorrow. I think this is very powerful because in this story, we will see that Tulsi's desire to marry Sudama, to marry Shankachunda, and her desire to marry Lord Narayana are ultimately fulfilled. And but it turns out, this because just like Sudama is an expansion from Lord Krishna, Tulasi is an expansion from Srimati Radharani, their relationship is not, it's also entwined with their relationship to God. Sudama is not in a relationship with Srimati Radharani. That's clear. He's in a relationship with Krishna. And so both, he's the friend of Krishna. He's in Sakya Bhava, Sakya Rasa towards Krishna. But he has this um, Madhurya Bhav Sutra as the concert. This is not a bhav that we should, we can only date Krishna, right? Among all of these personalities, we only date Krishna. Krishna's dating everybody, right? But primarily, we want to serve Radhika and serve Tulsi Devi in their relationships with Krishna. Even though we do have our relationship with Krishna, we're really in their camp, right? But I think in this story, it paints a very nuanced picture of how our earthly relationships end up bringing us to God. The love that we experience in our earthly relationships brings us ultimately to the feet of God. Polyamory represent this is a specific type of polyamory. Like, right? Krishna is has the right to be unlimitedly polyamorous, and Krishna appears to everyone as their own. Krishna has 16,000 wives. He appears to everyone as their own, beloved. Right. So there's no need for other beloveds, like, right, in that spiritual sense, because Krishna's infinite, right? Infinite, poly, like, oh goodness, I know I'm not going to send this to my Harmony Collective friends, like, oh, please forgive me, Ma. Um, but yes, I think that, this, that Tulasi in her earthly relationship to Shankachunda experienced this happy life and happy love, which then delivered her straight to the feet of her Lord. And Sudama, through his earthly love, was delivered onto the feet of his Lord. And so Shankachunda has this vision. Shankachunda is one of the cases of a demon who is actually a great Vaishnava, a very exalted devotee. And so Shankachunda says, I will go into battle with the gods. And now a thing I have not mentioned is that the strength of Shankachunda, the power that he has, comes from his patnivrata, the chastity of his wife. And so there's a curse, like a boon, I guess, that he has, that if his wife cheats on him, if the chastity of his wife is broken, then it's going to suck away all of his power, and he will make himself vulnerable to attack. So Vishnu, who has to attack his friend, like, in order to fulfill fulfill this lila, and so he goes back to Shiva and he says, "I need a favor." His brother is Shiva. I need a favor, and it's because he has to go and attempt to break the chastity of Tulasi Devi. He'll send Shiva and his family to come attack Shankachunda. And so Shankachunda does battle with Kartikeya. This Kartik Purnima is also very much associated with Lord Kartikeya. And Bhadrakali enters the fray when her son can't handle it. Or here's too powerful. The son, of course, Kartikeya is the most powerful, and he's the direct weapon, is the direct Shakti of Ma herself. But for Leela purposes, they put up of this valiant fight, and then Shiva at last enters the battle. And so all three of them are fighting with the battling with this demon Shankachunda. And meanwhile, in Tulasi's inner apartments, she sees her husband, Shankachunda, come into her bedchamber. And she says, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were still out fighting. How was the battle?" Shankachunda says, "Oh, they put up a great fight. Lord Shiva, with his trident, he gives this whole elaborate description. And then he admitted that I had defeated him. And then he went back to Kailasha. And then he goes, oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. Beautiful. I'm so glad that you're home." And they begin to make love. And the after they have been making love for quite some time, several times, like having a beautiful, beautiful time, she realizes that something's different about this person. He says, "I don't think you're my husband. Who are you?" And it says in the account, Lord Vishnu then assumed his own true beautiful form. Tulasi saw the lord of the demigods before her. His complexion was deep blue like fresh rain clouds. His eyes were like autumnal lotuses. He was decked with jewelry and ornaments. His smiling face looked very gracious, and he wore a yellow robe. Seeing Vasudev's handsome form, Tulasi fainted. This is kind of what I mean about our earthly relationships taking us to other divine relationships, because we first experience what love is like, what it's like to love another person in bhakti. It's very hard to do bhakti if you are super detached from the world. Of course, the goal is to detach yourself ultimately from the world. But if you have never really connected with what it's like to be the child of a mother, or what it's like to be a partner, what it's like to be a friend, then how else are you to cultivate these relationships with Bhagavan? And so, in a way, Shankachunda's relationship with Tulsi Devi acts as a type of her relationship to Vishnu, her relationship to her ultimate beloved. Whereas, you see Shankachunda is super detached, like, kind of. He's more like a friend to Tulsi Devi. They're our best friends. And they quarrel like friends, even in the story. And so this is representative of his ultimate status as Krishna's friend. Vrinda is Krishna's lover. Sudama is Krishna's friend. Right? I just wanted to clear that up. I didn't want to get too far afield with the polyamory stuff. Certainly, like we affirm all relationships styles on this podcast, but talking about these divine relationships, it's very specific, and I didn't want to get it wrong. So, seeing Lord Vishnu here, she faints. She can't handle it. But a few moments later, she regained consciousness and said, "O Lord, you are like a stone. You are merciless. You violated my chastity by deception. And by this means, you have killed my husband." Because during this moment, you're right, I forgot, meanwhile, there's a battle going on. While Tulsi is cavorting with her lover, then this gives the opportunity for Lord Shiva's tridents to pierce Shankachunda. And incidentally, he throws the bones of Shankachunda into the ocean, disposing them with great reverence. And he causes all of these bones to turn to conch shells. And so, this is also one of the reasons the why Lord Shiva is traditionally not given abhishek with the conch shell. You'll see, the conch shell is given, abhishek for other deities, but for Lord Shiva, it's sometimes considered inauspicious for Shiva to be, and this is why, partially because it's the prasad of Lord Shiva. Also, "O Lord," Tulasi says, "you are merciless. Yes, your heart is like a stone. Therefore, I curse you to become a stone. Those who call you holy are doubtlessly wrong." Ooh, big fight. And so Lord Vishnu reassures her that, for the reason we have come together on earth is that our ultimate purpose is to be conduits of the Lord's mercy for all of humankind. Lord Vishnu gives Tulsi the boon. You will live in sacred places and bestow the highest religious merit. All the holy spots will converge and reside at the foot of the Tulsi tree, at the root of the Tulsi tree, and thus spiritual merits will accrue to all. O fair one, all the demigods and I will wait there to gather the falling Tulsi leaves. Whoever will be moistened or anointed with water that has been sanctified by Tulsi leaves will reap the benefits of having bathed in all the sacred rivers and perform all kinds of sacrifices. Lord Hari will not be pleased with the gift of 1,000 jars of honey as with one tulsi leaf. And he says, I will fulfill your curse and become a stone, like also. So we will be together. These stones, these Shaligram Shilas that are from the Gandaki River in Nepal. He says, without a doubt, the demigods are pleased with a person who daily worships the Shalagram Shila. He becomes so holy that even all the holy places desire his touch. He becomes Jivan Mukta and very godly. Ultimately, he goes to Vaikunta and serves Lord Hari there eternally. Any sin, such as the killing of a Brahmano, flies away just from him, just as snakes flee at the sight of Garuda. The eagle is consecrated by the dust of his feet. By his birth, he redeems 100,000 of his ancestors. And so we will go back to the spiritual world to take our places in Goloka Vrindavan. But the reason I brought us here is so that we can stay and give mercy to all of the fallen souls. This points to one of the defining characteristics of Tulsi Devi, and that is her love, her supreme affection for all devotees. This is Nandini Tulsidas himself writing about the writing about her mercy. One can imagine an overflowing glass of water. That water is Vrinda Devi's boundless love for Radha and Krishna. Being able to being unable to contain the water, the glass constantly overflows, and the water droplets land in this world and sprout as Tulasi Devi. What does one do when they are overwhelmed with love for another? They can't help but tell others about that person and try to bring everyone to meet them. She gives shelter to anyone and everyone who comes in contact with her, whether they are conscious of it or not, whether they want it or not, even if they are sinful and offensive to spiritual life. With the heart of a mother, her tearful eyes anointed with love and compassion, she gives everyone her shelter. One of the most common ways that devotees connect with Tulsi Devi is wearing these Tulsi beads on their neck. You often see people wearing, along with Rudraksha beads, they're the most common beads, neck beads worn by Hindus. And the scriptures make these extraordinary statements. I speak the truth, says the Padma Purana. In the body of one who wears a bead made of Srimati Tulsi Devi's wood, there is no sin. Even if by chance one who wears such neck beads made of Srimati Tulsi Devi's beads kept on the hands or on one's neck made from her wood, dies in a cremation ground. He obtains the pious merit of dying at Ganga. There is no doubt about it. The verses go on and on like this. And you may ask why, right? Can we get rid of our sins just by coming into contact with this plant? Doesn't that seem a little ridiculous? I don't think it is if you come from a standpoint that God is always wanting to shower mercy. God is looking for excuses to give us mercy. Chanting the holy name, serving Tulsi, serving, the deity. All of these are portals. Nature itself is a portal. The human body is a portal. The river and the fire and the altar that we build, and all of these things can be portals to the divine. A simple plant that grows wild in the forest or is easily kept in one's garden that you water and tend. Her wood can be kept close to you and soothingly soft on your skin. The fragrance of her flowers. This is a place where the divine meets us. The sinful tendencies are quieted. The anger, the frustration, the desire. Tulsi Devi has this cooling influence that even if we're not conscious of it, puts us in a state to be receptive to spirituality. She opens us up to God. She opens us up to the divine realm. It wouldn't be such a wonder. I mean, it will always be a wonder, but it wouldn't be so hard for us to understand if we truly understood how much God loves us, that He wants to make it that easy. And of course, it's not that easy. But doing these more easy things, I think one finds in the practice of bhakti that all of a sudden you're on the other side. And that doesn't mean like self-realization, the other side of a puja, the other side of a japa session, the other side of a kirtan, and the other side of a tulsi puja. And something has shifted, something has changed, something has unfolded within yourself. That is the kind of awakening. And those who fully realize this awakening, who realize what power lies in this one little plant, they cannot help but glorify her in this way. There's and you know this comes from an article saying like who can wear kanti mala. There's people who say you can't wear tulsi if you're not following the regulative principles, or if you eat meat, or if you know are following the sexual lifestyle, or you know whatever. I wouldn't eat meat when I'm wearing tulsi. Like I would take her off and put her back on. But it's am I allowed to wear this? Am I allowed to wear a necklace to the temple? There's something that is told in the Naradiya Purana, retold by Nandini Prabhu. The story begins with a foolish twice-born who, though being born a Brahmana, neglected spiritual practice and lived by farming. He was strong and practical, but disrespectful to the sacred. One dawn, he slung a rope and sickle over his shoulder and walked near the forest to gather some rice and vegetables. The path opened onto a grove of Srimati Tulsi Devi. Her leaves were soft, emerald-like, and cooling to the mind, shone like green gems set in gold. In wonder, he saw her. The farmer thought, if this plant is edible for men or cows, I'll be fortunate. At least I can take some to my neighbor, a Brahmana, who seem to value it for some purpose. I have this neighbor who's into this religious stuff. He likes this plant, so I don't know. Maybe he can make some use of it. I don't know. Maybe I'll make some tea. I don't know. Unknown to him by divine arrangement, this was the moment when his predestined duration of life was to come to an end. Invisible to him, waiting close by, was a group of Yamadutas, or messengers of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death. As the Yamadutas watched for him to reach Tulsi, they hurried to a black snake coiled nearby and demanded, "Bite him now." Lowest among the twice born deserves to be bitten by you. If he touches Tulsi Devi, we will lose all power over him. The Yamadutas knew what the Shastra says about those whose body touches the Tulsi wood. So in the story, he gathers this bunch of Tulsi and he starts to bring it home, carrying it on the, carrying on his back. And this snake is slithered inside, and the Yamadutas are watching. Like, what's he gonna do? And he's walking, but he has no idea. But Yamadutas like he's come in contact with Tulsi Devi. We can't touch him. And continuing, the bewildered twice-born who had unknowingly enacted the truths of Shastra then approached his home. At the edge of the village, his neighbor, a Brahmin and worshipper of Lord Krishna, stood near his doorway preparing for puja. The Brahmin paused. He saw something luminous hovering around the farmer. He could see Tulsi Devi and the agents of death scattering about. He was amazed. Why is Srimati Tulsi Devi there? He stepped forward and asked he has the spiritual vision, so he asks the servants of Yamaraj, what is this wonder? Oh, noble, and they tell him, this person is meant to die, but we can't touch him because of Tulsi. He says, oh, noble souls, merciful servants of the Lord of Death, who chastises the sinful, please tell me how this twice-born may be spared. Surely if he lets go of Srimati Tulsi Devi, even the Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Vishnu will not protect him. Out of kindness you have warned me of the snake's danger. Yet I know that Tulasi Devi has been brought here only for the successful completion of my worship of the Lord. I beg you, therefore, protect this poor soul. The Yamadutas replied, O Brahmin, what use is our mercy? Out of respect for you, we servants of death would withdraw. Yet within 1.5 hours, his allotted span of life will end, and he will die from the serpent's bite. Only your worshipable Lord, the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, who longs for offering a single tulsi leaf, can protect this foolish Vipra. And so he says, all right, well, you'll have to wait until after your puja, and then this man, will die. Hold on, I don't have the. He says, okay, I don't have the next slide. But we'll continue. I'm reading from the website. If this twice born, while still holding the Tulasi, were to offer a single leaf to the husband of the goddess of fortune, then at once the Lord's personal weapon would reduce us to ashes. We hold no power, whether it be over the pious or over the sinful, if they worship Hari with Tulasi Devi. At the time of death, such a soul is escorted not by us, but by the messengers of Vishnu himself. The Yamadutas continued, why the Lord, so dear to Srimati Tulsi Devi, protects anyone who touches her, we do not know. But if you wish this twice born to be saved, then immediately worship Tulsi Devi, that her mercy may extend the span of his life. Hearing this, the Brahman joyfully did as they instructed, and thus the twice born was saved. This is Nandini Tulsidasa's commentary. We see from this story that even a sinful person who is offensive to spiritual practice gets the full benefit by just touching one Srimati Tulsi Devi. By just once touching Srimati Tulsi Devi, what to speak of all the time? The idea that individuals shouldn't wear Kanti Mala because they are impure or not following certain principles minimizes the mercy and compassion of Tulsi Devi. As a mother, Jagadhatri, she does not discriminate. She gives shelter to anyone and everyone, Vishvashraya, and that is her service to the Lord. The idea that Tulasi Devi can be contaminated is not proper. She is 100% aloof to material nature. She is not of this world. She is transcendental. Wearing Tulasi neck beads is a personal choice, an expression of allegiance, duty, simple inspiration, or a call for mercy. Tulsi is mercy incarnate. She can be said, this is not a theologically correct statement, but she is, I tend to think of her as an Audarya Rupa of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani expanded in the mood of giving service to Radha Krishna. Bhaktinanda Maharaj describes her as, she relates Tulasi with tolerant. She is the mother most tolerant. And she, like Mother Nature, tolerates all of our imperfections in order to deliver us. She, more than anyone, more than even Radhika herself, for the Vaishnavas, is Ma, is mother. Concluding with some mantras, like, and there are some, rules. There are, the general rule of wearing tulsi mala, wearing this kanti mala, is that you don't have to take it off ever. But I personally, would say that it's better if you're not following strict principles to, if you're going to eat meat, if you're going to, you know, like specifically like consuming things or doing acts or whatever. It's sometimes nice to take off Tulsi Devi, but if you are practicing Vaishnav, then even for intimate relations or going to the bathroom, or no, technically intimate relations and going to the bathroom, anyone can wear Tulsi still. It's the same thing with my Rudraksha bead for my initiation. He says you never have to take it off. But out of respect for the real presence of Tulsi Devi and the Tulsi beads, it's use your discretion. I'm not going to since the Shastra is clear, she is merciful. She will be on you, anytime, like right, anytime. She is willing to fully give her protection to you. She's very, very merciful. So I will not dictate anyway, but this is just what I do, you know. But most times we do not have to take her off for that reason. She is the one who protects us, who loves us as her children. And for plucking her, there are certain guidelines that are generally followed by Vaishnavas. She's generally not plucked at night. She needs her beauty sleep. And, on certain days, they say in the Shastras there are statements, oh, you can't pluck Tulsi on Amavasya, you can't pluck Tulsi on a Purnima. But it's generally said, and confirmed by Nandini's research, that Vaishnavas, they only refrain from plucking Tulsi on Dvadasi, on the day after Ekadashi. The idea being that, Ekadashi is one of the biggest days for the service of Lord Vishnu. It is a day where we reaffirm our spiritual intentions on the way to Purnima or Amavasya, where the passions become very strong, like the full moon. Um, the lower passions become very strong. And so to kind of lock in before that very sacred time, we do this extra day of worship on Ekadashi. And so Tulasi Devi is very strained on Ekadashi. She's making all sorts of preparations for the Lord, arranging all types of things. People are plucking her, people are doing pujas, people are making offerings. She's assisting everywhere. And Dwadasi is kind of her day of rest. And so the Tulsi leaves that are offered on Dwadasi are plucked beforehand on Ekadashi. And in general, the best time for plucking Tulsi is first thing in the morning. And you can either use your right hand, either not preferably not with your pointer finger. There are certain ways, there are different. I'm not exactly recalling that these are kind of general guidelines. If you want, you can also use scissors, right, for one's Tulsi plant. And there's a mantra that is used. Om Tulsyam Rita Janmasi Sadatvam Keshava Priya Keshavartam Chinomi Tvam Varada Bhavashobhane. O Tulsi, you were born from nectar. And one of the sources she was born from the churning of the ocean. And Mudra, I don't know. You'll have to look that up. But like, in general, I generally pick with my thumb and my ring finger because the ring finger is used just very often for spiritual things. Um, or I use scissors. Usually, I try to use scissors, or I should try to use scissors. But this is a general mantra that's used for plugging. There's another one for begging forgiveness, which is good if you have to, which is usually recited whenever you pick Tulsi. I don't have it in the slide. I can send it in the chat. This is one mantra you can use for plucking Tulsi to offer to Lord Vishnu. And here are also some pranam mantras that you can use to praise Tulsi. Vrindai Tulsi Devyai Priyaye Keshavasya cha Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatye Namo Namaha. I offer my repeated obeisances unto Vrinda, Srimati Tulsi Devi, who is very dear to Lord Krishna. O goddess, you bestow devotional service to Lord Vishnu and possess the highest truth. This is the one I recite the most often. Mahaprasada Janani Sarva Saubhagyavardhini Adivyadharo Nityam Tulasi Tvam Namostute. O Mother of great mercy, bestower of all good fortune, who always removes anxiety and torment. Tulasi, I offer obeisances to you. And this is another verse from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to close us out. Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay kshiptascha kamani taranga madhye kripamoi tvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charanara vindam. O Vrinda, I offer my respected obeisances to your lotus feet. Those who are devoid of devotion to Lord Hari, and who are thrown by their offenses into the waves of lust and other inauspicious qualities may take shelter of you. I would add that there's also a beautiful Tulasi Kavacham, a prayer for Tulsi to protect the different parts of your body. And one thing I love about her is that she is both worshipped for these very exalted purposes of, oh, please help me enter the Nitya Lila of Sri Radhika and Krishna. But she is also there for personal protection. Please, Mother, hold me, protect me, love me here. She is our loving protectress, our loving mother. I very much do compare her to the role of the Virgin Mary in Christianity. Of course, she is the consort of the Lord and not the mother of the Lord. But the role that she plays as the vehicle of the mercy of Radha and Krishna, the tangible physical manifestation of the pure love and mercy of Radha and Krishna. So they're saying she's such a cutie with her dresses and accessories during Vivaha. Yes, if you live near a temple, a very traditional ceremony is this: the Tulasi plant is wed to the Shalagram Shila in an elaborate wedding ceremony. I'm going to try to go to one of these this Saturday. That this Saturday is the day when it's traditionally done, and so I think I'll probably try to perform some sort of other similar ceremony with my Giriraj here that I have. So please, get out to that as one of you can. They're really spectacular, beautiful, sweet ceremonies. Again, the beginning of the wedding season. But so Tulasi Devi is a very merciful mother. I'm very glad because my Tulasi plant is, she's a little worse for wear, but she's still mercifully giving leaves, showering her love, showering her affection. And so next week we are planning on getting back into the rhythm of Bhagavatam and nectar of instruction. And until then, I offer my obeisances. Om Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.